There is a ghost lingering in the ruins of old European gardens that the modern energy giants hope you never rediscover in your lifetime. It is a secret etched into ancient bricks that allows you to grow tropical lemons and Mediterranean pomegranates in the middle of a freezing blizzard. Imagine harvesting sun-drenched peaches and succulent figs while your neighbors are shoveling 3 feet of snow off their driveways in the dead of winter. For 400 years, this technology turned frozen northern landscapes into tropical paradises without using a single drop of oil or a watt of electricity. This was not a miracle of modern engineering, but a masterpiece of forgotten physics that provided 3 times more thermal efficiency than any modern heating system. Not per acre, per brick. This is the forbidden wisdom of the thermal fruit wall, a technology that big energy spent billions of dollars making you forget. The archive opens in 1605, inside the royal orchards of Versailles, where the king demanded fruit that defied the very laws of nature. Architects and gardeners realized that if you could trap the sun, you could move the equator 500 miles to the north with just a wall. They expected the frost to kill the saplings, but what they found instead changed the course of agricultural history and shocked the botanical world of Europe. This was not a flimsy fence or a simple barrier, but an elevated heat battery that absorbed the kinetic energy of the sun and stored it deep. Across the continent, from the rolling hills of France to the misty valleys of England, these walls were known by the locals as the solar ovens. The Dutch called them slangenmuur, or serpentine walls, using curves to create microclimates that were 10 degrees warmer than the surrounding air for every single tree. So what did these master gardeners know about the physics of the earth that we have been conditioned to ignore for the sake of profit? Let me tell you exactly what is happening inside those bricks and why your utility company would be terrified if you built one today. Everything you have been told about needing expensive fossil fuels to stay warm in the winter is a lie designed to keep you paying monthly bills. A standard fruit wall made of dark brick can absorb over 200,000 thermal units of energy from a single clear afternoon of direct winter sunlight. Modern glass greenhouses, the things we are told are essential for winter growing, lose heat 10 times faster than a thick masonry wall during the night. A wall that is 18 inches thick provides enough thermal mass to keep the air around the fruit trees 30 degrees warmer than the outside temp. That is the difference between a dead orange tree and a thriving harvest of citrus that tastes like it was grown in the heart of Florida. But here is what nobody tells you about the chemistry of the stone, because the scientific anomaly of the fruit wall goes much deeper than heat. In a study of historical masonry, researchers found that these walls do not just radiate heat, they create a localized pocket of high-density infrared radiation. This specific frequency of energy stimulates the cellular repair of the plant, allowing tropical species to survive freezing nights that would normally burst their cells. The ancient gardeners did not have a word for thermal mass infrared absorption, but they did not need one because they could feel the radiating life. They lived in a world where you could reach out and touch the sun at midnight, stored in the very stones that held up their garden borders. So here is the question that the fossil fuel industry and the heating companies never want to answer in their glossy brochures for expensive furnaces. How did we go from growing pineapples in London during the Little Ice Age to being unable to keep a house warm without an electric grid? The suppression of the fruit wall was not a sudden event, but a slow erasure fueled by the rise of coal and the Industrial Revolution. The narrative of progress was carefully crafted to ensure that every household became a customer for the burgeoning fuel empires of the 19th century. In the 1800s, the coal barons realized they could not tax a wall, and they could not put a meter on the setting sun as it warmed. They began a campaign to convince the public that these walls were inefficient, calling them relics of a primitive past that belonged in a museum of history. You cannot patent a brick wall that has been protecting trees for 500 years without needing a single repair or an expensive service contract to maintain. You cannot control a farmer who can grow his own tropical calories in the middle of a sub-zero winter using only the physics of gravity and light. You cannot force a community to depend on a centralized power grid when their gardens are producing surplus energy and food at the same exact time daily. You cannot sell a subscription to the sun And you cannot put a price tag on a thermal battery that never degrades and never needs replacing or charging. You cannot monetize the ancient silence of a stone wall that provides a better climate than a high-tech climate control system made of plastic and wires. They classified this knowledge as obsolete because they could not find a way to make you pay for the heat that was already there for free. They did not suppress the fruit wall through a grand conspiracy, but through the calculated neglect of our architecture and the systematic destruction of local wisdom. By the time the 1900s arrived, the massive fruit walls of Europe were being torn down to make room for factories and subsidized coal heating systems. The education of architects changed to focus on aesthetics and cheap materials, ignoring the thermal properties that once made our ancestors completely independent from energy grids. But here is what they could not erase from the world: the walls themselves that still stand in the forgotten corners of old estates and ancient monasteries. Knowledge does not die as long as the stones remain, and half the world never truly forgot how to use the massive weight of the earth itself. In the remote regions of the Himalayas, the people of Ladakh still use trombe walls to stay warm when the temperature drops to 40 below zero nightly. In the high deserts of China, farmers still build earthen mounds that act as thermal sponges, keeping their crops alive through the harshest winter nights on record. This was never famine food. This was the premium cuisine of emperors, grown with a sophistication that our modern monoculture can barely even begin to comprehend today. Grandmothers in the Mediterranean still talk about the sweet taste of wall-ripened fruit, a flavor that comes from the slow, steady release of deep solar heat energy. But the knowledge was incomplete because we stopped looking at the wall as a machine and started looking at it as a simple piece of garden decor. Half the world never forgot the warmth of the stone, while the other half was taught to worship the flickering flame of a gas-powered furnace daily. That moment of realization is happening right now, as the cost of energy skyrockets and the promise of the industrial dream begins to turn into cold ash. So here is what you do if you want to reclaim your independence and grow your own tropical oasis in the middle of the frozen north today. Find a south-facing spot in your yard and recognize that the earth beneath your feet is the greatest thermal storage device ever created by the universe itself. Build a wall using high-density materials like reclaimed brick, dark stone, or even water-filled barrels that can soak up the golden light of the winter sun daily. Paint the surface a deep, matte black to maximize absorption, and watch as the snow melts away from the base while the rest of the world freezes. Recognize that you must provide a safety note and ensure the wall is structurally sound to handle the weight of the thermal mass you are building carefully. If you are in an area with high seismic activity, consult a local engineer to ensure your solar battery does not become a hazard during a sudden tremor. Do not plant your trees directly against the wall, but leave a small gap for airflow to prevent mold while still capturing the radiant heat of the stones. Reclaim the name of the thermal mass that the energy monopolies tried to erase from your mind and your building codes for over 100 years now. Every person who stacks a brick to trap the sun is one more proof that we do not need their wires or their pipelines to thrive healthily. The heat they taxed, the sun they hid, the wall they taught you was just a pile of old stones. The ancient architects knew. Those who erased the fruit walls definitely knew. Now you know. The sun is still here, still hitting your backyard with free energy every single morning, still waiting for anyone willing to build a wall and catch the light, still ready to turn your winter into a tropical summer. It can feed you. The story of the fruit wall is more than just a gardening technique. It is a lesson in how true power is often the simplest thing available. When we look at the massive energy consumption of modern agriculture, we see a system designed for fragility, relying on constant inputs from distant and expensive sources. The ancient fruit walls were a testament to the idea of a permanent culture, where the investment of today provides the abundance of a century from now without cost. In the 1600s, a gardener would build a wall, knowing that his grandchildren would still be picking peaches from that same microclimate during the coldest winters. This long-term thinking is exactly what the modern quarterly profit model of big energy seeks to destroy in favor of immediate, recurring payments from every single consumer. They want you to believe that the climate is your enemy, something to be fought with expensive machines and high-voltage electricity provided only by their private networks. But the wall teaches us that the climate is a resource, a flow of energy that can be captured, stored, and redirected to serve the needs of life itself. By building a thermal mass, you are not just growing fruit, you are creating a sanctuary of stability in an increasingly volatile and expensive world of energy costs. Every degree of heat you store in your wall is a degree of heat you do not have to buy from a corporation that cares nothing for your well-being. This is why the knowledge was suppressed, not because it was inefficient, but because it was too efficient at granting the individual farmer a sense of total sovereignty. Imagine a city where every south-facing wall was a garden, where the streets were lined with citrus trees, even in the heart of a cold northern winter season. The air would be cleaner, the food would be fresher, and the people would be free from the anxiety of the next utility bill arriving in their mailboxes. This vision was real 400 years ago, and it is still possible today for anyone who is willing to pick up a brick and start building again. The thermal mass of the Earth is waiting to be activated, and the sun is ready to provide all the energy we could ever possibly need for our survival. We must stop thinking of our homes as boxes that consume energy and start thinking of them as living systems that harvest and store the gifts of nature. The fruit wall is the first step toward that future, a bridge between the wisdom of the past and the desperate needs of our modern, energy-starved society. As you stand in your garden and feel the warmth of a stone that has been sitting in the sun, you are feeling the heartbeat of a forgotten empire. It is a heartbeat that cannot be silenced by legislation or erased by the marketing budgets of the global oil and gas cartels who fear your freedom. Take back the light, take back the heat, and reclaim the ancient right to grow your own food in the warmth of your own solar-powered sanctuary today. The wall is not just a barrier. It is a promise that the Earth will always provide for those who understand its laws and respect its simple, powerful physics. We are the heirs to a legacy of abundance that was stolen from us in the name of progress. But the recovery of that legacy begins with you. Build your wall, plant your seeds, and watch as the tropical blossoms open in the middle of the snow, a defiant sign that the sun still belongs to everyone. The energy companies can keep their grids and their meters, but we will keep the sun and the stones and the fruit that tastes like absolute liberation. If this opens something for you, subscribe to this channel and share this video with everyone who is tired of paying for the sun every single month. Every share helps preserve the knowledge they spent centuries trying to bury under a mountain of coal and a sea of expensive monthly utility bills for everyone. The next vault of forgotten wisdom opens soon, and we will continue to reclaim the power that has always belonged to the people and the Earth collectively. Stay warm, stay independent, and never forget that the greatest technologies are often the ones that have been right in front of us for 1,000 years. The archive remains open for those who seek the truth beneath the layers of industrial propaganda that have clouded our collective memory for far too long now. The journey back to the sun begins with a single stone and the courage to believe that nature is still the ultimate provider of everything we truly need. Go forth and build, for the winter is coming, but the warmth of the ancestors is already here, waiting in the bricks and the mortar of your resolve. Your garden is the front line of a revolution that does not need weapons, only the steady hand of a builder and the clear vision of a free person. The lemons are waiting to grow, the peaches are waiting to ripen, and the wall is waiting to be built by your hands in the light of day. The cycle of dependency ends the moment you realize that the heat you need is already hitting the ground at your feet every single time the sun rises. Listen to the stones, watch the light, and become the master of your own climate in a world that has forgotten how to live in harmony with physics. This is the end of the narrative of scarcity and the beginning of a new era of solar abundance that no corporation can ever hope to fully control. Believe in the wall, trust in the sun, and let the fruit of your labor be a testament to the power of forgotten knowledge in a modern world. If this message resonated with you, let it be the seed of a new way of living that honors the past while building a sustainable and free future. The next chapter of our story is being written in the gardens of the brave and the yards of the wise who refuse to be kept in the cold. Welcome to the age of the thermal revolution, where the simplest solutions are the most radical acts of defiance against a system that wants you weak. Grow your own, heat your own, and be your own source of light in a world that is finally waking up to the power of the ancient ways. The stones are ready when you are.